Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have you along. I am delighted to be speaking today with Geraldine Butler-Wright. Geraldine is the founder of an amazing business, RorCas, which is RorCas.com, and she is the Chief People Officer and founder of the business. And we're going to dive into all that she's accomplished and plans to do in the future as well. But firstly, Geraldine, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks very much for having me. It's lovely to be on this side of the podcast seat. So it's very nice.
Yeah, so I think it's a lot easier and a lot more fun when you're asking the questions, but what's it like today on the other side?
I'll let you know at the end.
It gets brutal, let me tell you.
It's been a while. Okay, I'm bracing myself, Ben.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be lovely. I'm sure it'll be great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I was going to ask at the end, but let's start. Tell us about your podcast. What's it all about?
Yeah, so it's called People and Pioneers, and it's having conversations with interesting founders, scientists, thinkers, investors about how the people part has been really integral to how they have built their career, their businesses, their investments, and sharing some of their lessons learned so they can share those on to other founders, investors, etc. Really proud of it. Top 20% globally, listened to in 21 countries, 5-star ratings. I'm very pleased. Something that started out as an experiment has taken on its own life, and yeah, I'm proud of it.
Fabulous. I was talking to someone the other day about taking action, things like this, and I revealed that it took me an extra 3 months for me to start this podcast because I thought, listen to someone talk about HR in an Aussie accent, talk about silly reasons. And I think people come up with all sorts of stuff like tech and things like that. What led you to the formation of the podcast? What kicked you into gear in that regards?
Well, I had a conversation with a dear friend called Hung Lee, and he has this brilliant, Hung.
Wonderful guy, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Known him for quite a few years. And we were having lunch, and it was one really cold December afternoon. And he said, gee, why don't you just start a podcast? I was like, podcast for me? Really? I don't know. He's like, yeah, just give it a go. My background is in recruitment, so I love asking questions. So it's quite sort of a natural progression in many ways. And I'm curious and interested in how founders and investors and interesting people think and how it's influenced their lives. So once I got over that, podcast, me, to just do it, just jump in and do it. I'm fortunate enough to have a lovely network of people who I could try it out with to start. A lot of the people I know on the podcast, they're friends, and that helped build that confidence and ease into going into it. How about you? How did you find those sort of first guests?
I forget the order, but I think the podcast followed or just preceded when I ran an HR conference, got about 1,000 people along for it, more in the HR consulting space. But yeah, I agree with you. It's fabulous. There are different ways you benefit. One is I think you get to clarify your own thinking on things. You probably found that, I suspect, and we'll get into what you do and how you do it. But I suspect it helps you clarify your processes, your opinions on HR processes or whatever it may be. It also lets you learn from other people, so you stay sharp. And then from a business development perspective, you get to meet future clients or maybe past clients and get them to share their victories with the world, and then helps. So many different benefits, let alone just connecting with other influencers and things like that. So
absolutely. And I think as well, my mindset is very much people as a product. So I see when I have conversations with that group that you're doing your discovery, you're doing your user research, you're aligning on what do these founders or investors, what do they really want right now, rather than presumption. And it's interesting to see some key trends when you're having conversations with people about their successes, about their failures, what they've learned, and how you can adapt your value proposition to being a painkiller rather than a vitamin, which is often what this group really are in the market for. One of the interesting things I've noticed in pretty much every podcast I've done is the focus on intentionality with founders. And it's a great reminder to make sure that you've got your value prop really clear on what you do, why you do it, who it's for, which sometimes in HR you can get lost in the noise. That's been a great check-in for me as I've been doing them.
Do you know, normally I might dive into tell us your life story and your history and your CV, but you take some pretty strong stances on things. For instance, you wrote a post a little while back on LinkedIn about HR having a bad rep and all that sort of stuff. And I think we've all heard it. HR stands for human refuse and all that sort of stuff. Can you talk us through that post and your thoughts around it?
Yeah, or human remains also. That's
Human remains, yeah.
Human remains. So it was a post that had spun from a session I'd done with a group of 50 MSc students at UCL. So I'm on their advisory board for people analytics and human-centric leadership. And my style is say it as it is. And being in a mind space where, quite frankly, it helps, because if we don't talk about these things, then if there are problems, how are we going to address them? So my opening comment was HR has a terrible reputation. And that comes from a lot of discovery when I'm having conversations with founders and when I'm having conversations with investors, where HR is often seen as the blocker, the spider at the center of gossip web. They love red tape. They love to tell other people how to do leadership, but they're actually pretty rubbish at leadership themselves. They paper over poor performance in their own team. They love creating fiefdoms around them. So, HR is the business. I hear this regularly, and there's this incredible YouTube video that I watched recently for a group of tech founders who are effectively saying you don't need HR, you need an admin and a lawyer on retainer. That's what's going round there in the ecosystem at the moment. And that's something that I hear regularly. And I think it's really important for HR to just take that on board, absorb that and think, okay, so there's something going on there with the messaging or what we're producing as a result. And we need to think about our users. Would they subscribe, or do they want to subscribe to our services month on month? Probably not, given that those individuals I'm speaking to are decision makers. So it's things about, really getting back to the business, the needs of the business. So not becoming a silo of, issuing lots of policies, or this is what culture is, or, telling people. It's finding out what's the problem that needs to be fixed that we can help you with, and understanding what the goals of a business are. I'm astounded when you do chat to some HR people that they're very removed from that. So it's getting deep and understanding in the language around the business. How is their initiatives linked to the bottom line, making money for the business? Because very few companies are, social enterprises. There's a whole piece around narrative, and that's where I feel very passionately about. I'm speaking to this talent coming up and making them think about business outcomes and helping businesses win rather than be a cost center, which is where a lot of the mindset is. And certainly with AI, there's a huge opportunity there for HR to position themselves as that incredible support, where you bring technology and business. You think of Moderna, what they're doing is incredible, but that's often not where businesses are looking or how HR are showing up and presenting themselves.
Yeah. You actually just reminded me of, I think it was my first ever HR manager role. It was a international resources company, but I was in this steel manufacturing division. And in your post, you talk about HR people might say, oh, let's try and get 10% turnover or reduction or something like that. But you were recommending or suggesting or saying, no, a better way to do it is to talk about, well, what does that have in terms of an impact on the business? So in my case, it was, I think, productivity of, if we can reduce certain negative factors and increase other things, but whether through better recruitment training processes, and et cetera, that we can actually make more money for the business because we get better productivity, yield, et cetera. I think that's where you're headed with that post. Don't just talk about the HR numbers for HR's sake, but where does that lead to in the business? Is that right?
So what? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Sounds great, but what's in it for the business? And I think that's the missing point. We get halfway there of, let's cut turnover by X because it's going to impact what product line? How is it going to help revenue generation? And when HR starts speaking like that, then the credibility increases and the value, the perception of value, and obviously you want to make sure that follows through to impact and results, is there. It becomes then more of that partnership. I saw recently a post about the Netflix model, how HR, the headcount actually was higher than the actual business. And, HR is the business. I completely disagree with this. Fundamentally, I think that comment is driven by ego and it's not helpful. It will enable as well lots of very bloated HR teams that will be there to create their own fiefdoms. Not always.
yeah.
The Netflix model is the exception rather than the norm. And they've got a lot of the, high talent density. That's what they're all about. That's a very different setup to many companies. Treat it with caution, I'd say, those kind of.
Yeah. I think they were the ones famous for their culture deck, if I recall correctly.
Which is, incredible. Absolutely love their culture deck and that feeling of, accountability and responsibility. Superb. But also where we are as a world right now. I'm a big futurist, right? So this is my predictions, Ben.
Here we go.
But here we go. Brace yourself. So I see the two paths. You're going to have the rise of the entrepreneur. When you think about the enablement of Lovable, I've just been doing my website on Lovable, right? I don't need to get a dev to do it, albeit I'm learning as I go along, but I'm DIYing. And there's going to be a lot more smaller, high talent density teams that are able to create incredible results. So if you think about their valuation, north of 1 billion in a very short amount of time. They were founded in 2023.
Wow. Yeah.
And when they got that valuation, their headcount was around 16.
1/6.
1/6.
Oh, wow.
So when investors are looking, going, hang on. So this company in our portfolio has 16 people and their valuation is X, and they've delivered, I believe it was a few million per ARR per employee. That's great. So, but then you've got a headcount that is 100 and you're half that at best, or maybe you're not breaking even. You've become, this zombie corn, right? Never mind a unicorn, a zombie corn. How does this work out? This doesn't match. So you've got people who are, becoming entrepreneurs straight out of the gates of maybe their first job, or maybe just straight out of university. You've got this high density small team. Or if you're looking at the bigger companies like Moderna, you've got chief people and digital officers where you've got GPTs running a majority of the stuff that HR used to do. And that's fascinating.
I see this as the future. I probably would agree with most of that. Are you looking to help companies do that? And secondly, could you tell us about what your business is and then how you do help these founders and companies?
Sure. So I help build or reset tech companies. So anywhere from your 0 to 1,000 employees in a year, to going in after the business has maybe pivoted, or perhaps they haven't scaled in a sustainable way, and resetting the business so then they can grow again in a way where they can wash their own face. Effectively, there's not such a chew on runway, and they're able to survive the turbulent times, which are, I think, going to be around for a while longer. So a few of the things that I do there are organizational design, so saying restructures. There's lots of new fancy words for restructures, but it is what it is. Doing it in a way where people don't end up with PTSD and the brand is impacted as well. Also looking at culture and values, establishing what those are, hiring for high talent density, and also those high performance teams. And the AI transformation piece as well, getting people brought along on that journey as companies naturally evolve. So my background is predominantly fintech, health tech, AI, SaaS. I'm also a qualified executive coach, and my sweet spot, I love helping those leaders, high potential, actually go into those C-suite, those high-level roles, rather than just throw them in and hope it helps. I'm an executive coach with Chief Product Officer track, Women in Product, and also I work with VC's Zinc VC as a founder coach for them. So that's my background, anywhere from seed to Series D. So I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to these things.
I love it. Well, they're great services because, you're right. You get the people going through the leadership track, but then perhaps not getting enough support when they do get into the C-suite roles. But also on the tech side of things, absolutely. You get all these people out of college, out of university, go and do a few hackathons and then start something or join something. We've seen the movies. In some cases, we work there and we know what those cultures are like. And in many of those cases, they're growing so rapidly, but then they hit the 100, 200 people head count. And then they need to turn into a proper business, and that grinds to a halt in certain ways, and the culture changes. So there's a lot of things going on there, and that's what you help with. Is that right?
I do. Or I also help in a way where you don't have to have a headcount. over 100 or 200. If you get the
16,
foundations
like you
in
said.
place, 16. If you get the foundations in place, it's also that recalibration if you've got a really bloated headcount and the lines of communication just multiply and compound and complexity compounds. So, I put my operations hat on and go, well, okay, how can we make this more simplified? When you think about headcount, when you're adding headcount, we need a human interaction here, 100% human interaction. Or can we have a hybrid? Or can this actually be an AI resource that we're using? So it's that intentionality. And I do a lot of work with leadership teams as well when they're growing and they're expanding. And sometimes there can be that chasm that comes between the leadership and the people who are, in the day-to-day details. And how do you actually bring that closer? So those are some of the areas that I focus on. I think it's incredibly exciting what awaits us with AI and the possibilities. And there's intellectual challenges that will come with that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of developing a business, you've launched, grown your own business. What lessons have you learned? And then also in terms of growing a business, doing the mundane stuff like getting clients and growing on that side, what lessons have you learned? What tips or advice could you share with others?
Yeah, this is very fortuitous timing because I just hit my 2-year mark.
Well done.
I would say it's tough. It is tough, tough, tough. And you will keep growing a thicker skin day by day. My practical advice would be point one, get at least 6 to 12 months money behind you because things change on a dime. You may have somebody booked in and then actually, sorry, it's a bit volatile. We need to push it forward or we need to cancel it. So have some money behind you, 100%. Be very clear on what your offering is. But network strategically. So go to different groups, different talks where you're going to have your users, your people that are going either to sort of help spread the word or what you're doing or potentially to partner with you. So you can go to so many things and it can be wasted time. So really double down on that. Go, hang on, so what? Why am I doing this? I'd say that's very important. Automate as much as you can. Use AI as much as you can. So I'm working on some GPTs that I've got for actually different clients, but trying to use them myself. Looking at like even little things like Calendly. I love Calendly. It's absolutely wonderful. So think about that. Get an accountant out of London. My accountant is from the Northeast and he is incredibly good. And you're not paying crazy London prices. So
good advice. Yeah.
Spread your view beyond that. Get some decent accountancy software as well. And time box in your calendar when you're going to have to do some of the admin heavy lifting to actually just do it. To just get on with it and eat the frog, but just get over it and get it done. Keep on top of that. And I outsource stuff as much as I can and how much I feel comfortable doing. So that's what I would say. In terms of the BD bit, just set yourself a target every week of speaking to, say, at least 5-7 people a week and being bold about asking, I've noticed you have XY connection. Would you be willing to make that connection for me? You have to get out of your own shell.
When you're speaking with these people that you connect with and so on, are you saying, hi, nice to meet you, here I am, or here's my service, or?
Yeah, I tend not to do cold approaches. So there'll be some connection from either a network or somebody else that I've actually met. There's some link there. So that helps open the door rather than I could go and send 100 emails a week and you'd probably get maybe one. So I tend to be very bespoke and focused and know that there's going to be that need to that point of being a painkiller or a vitamin. It's working out how you can help their pain in whatever way. I heard that incidentally at Ideas Fest. So I was a finalist for the UK Startup of the Year award, which was fantastic. I won London for business consulting. So proud of that.
Brilliant.
Seriously, anyone listening to this, go get a ticket and go. It was the most high worth return on investment. It was a few £100, completely worth it. The quality of networking was exceptional. The talks were exceptional. The quote about painkiller or vitamins actually from Michael Acton Smith, who was the co-founder, one of the founders, and having access to hearing and, from somebody like that, brilliant, those kind of things. I think get yourself out there, boots on ground, learn and absorb.
That's very true. I highly recommend that the painkiller versus the vitamin approach. Both are important, but in terms of opening doors. Generally, people have a problem, they want to sort it out before they want to expand and develop and strategize, etc.
Yeah. And it's how much am I using my time effectively? So LinkedIn, I've got a very volatile relationship with LinkedIn. So the algorithm, I've just let it go. In the words of Frozen, I have let that go because it was really frustrating me. So I go up, I show up, I put something that's salient on there. If I get likes, great. If I don't, it is what it is. I've had lots of people who haven't necessarily interacted with it who've gone, your posts such a really salient or they're really interesting. And that's why I'm reaching out right now. So you just got to keep with it. And the vanity matrix, it really, really doesn't mean anything. One thing actually circling back to things that I've learned or sort of skills that you sort of develop in the last 2 years is limiting the pity party. So the pity party is, I'd say, when you just get some bad news, right? You get disappointed and you were hoping something turned out and then for whatever reason it didn't turn out. And it can be a real punch in the gut. So get a mechanism in place. I allow myself an hour. I time box this 1 hour. I go for a walk. I have a coconut latte, and a cinnamon swirl, and I'm back in the game because wallowing about it is not going to help move the needle forward. You grieve it. And then you move on because that is what's going to get you the next job, the next engagement. So yeah, you can't join the pity party for a long time. And echo chambers as well. Be careful of the echo chamber of, founders are rubbish or they don't appreciate us and blah, blah, blah. Just take it for what it is. Be really careful with that and focus on how you can add value rather than just getting in this HR cul-de-sac of self-pity, quite frankly. There you go. There's my directness coming straight at you.
It came through. But on that point, sometimes I see people associating in groups where they're all getting small bits of business here and there, and there's not a lot of challenge or not a great market to be in, but they're hanging out with other people who are doing the same.
It's a choice, right? You make your choices. So I can't say do this or do that. All I can do is share experiences of what's worked and what hasn't. To me, the pity party doesn't work because it just drags me down. And I'd rather be more future focused and on to the next thing. It depends where you want to, quite frankly, put your energy and place your bets.
Absolutely. Can I ask, how has your podcast been for business growth in your case?
It's been good. It's been good for having conversations that lead on to other conversations. I don't look at it as a money generator per se. I see it as an opportunity to reconnect with people and to see where it goes, really. I don't spend a crazy amount of time on it, but the value it's given me is worth the effort that's put in.
So to gradually wrap things up, I want us to get your thoughts. You've kind of alluded to where the future's going, but where do you see the future of HR going for particularly your target market? Where do you see the path leading?
Small HR teams relying more on technology, so your GPTs, really upping the personalization piece. So where humans are really needed, doubling down there, adding an incredible service, but then also automating and adding AI to the stuff that just seeps energy and wraps people in red tape. So I think that's where it's headed. Where HR needs to be careful is, I heard a founder say the other day, HR's been talking about being strategic for decades. When are they actually going to be? And which was like, oh, okay. But actually it's scorched a bit because there's some truth in it, right? So now there's a slight amendment to that when it's, we want to be part of the AI strategy table. And then in the next breath, it's, no, I can't come to that meeting because I'm swamped in admin. It's like, okay, HR people, what we need to do is you need to carve out that time, whether it's hard or not. It's what you put in. It's like a casserole, right? So it's what you put in. If you put in, greater products or equivalent to carving out some more time, maybe it's a bit more lead work up front, but it'll give back. So you have a great casserole at the end of it. It's what the ingredients you put in. So there'll be a bit of pain before the gain. So I think that's where there's a mindset shift that HR needs to get to be relevant and not just to get lost, adrift, and before you know it, gone. So there's that huge opportunity to reshape.
So could you tell us, for people who could maybe refer business to you or want to work with you, how do they learn more about your business and also about the podcast?
Yep. So if you go onto Spotify for the podcast or Apple, so it's People and Pioneers, the podcast. And that's on the podcast for my business. I'm RorCas.com, RorCas.com. But on LinkedIn, I am a complete social media / LinkedIn tart. So if you want to connect with me, that's the place where I hang out. Sometimes begrudgingly, but I'd still hang out and I'm still grateful for the connections I get from there. So yeah, send me a request. I will absolutely accept it because, these things, they all come full circle one day.
And before I let you go, I just remember somewhere in your extensive history of HR and talent development, etc., I believe you worked at the US Embassy once upon a time. And I've just started watching The Diplomat. So tell me, is that what your life is like or was like back then?
It's so funny because I'm a trustee with the pension scheme there now. So I occasionally get back in. Winfield House is completely inaccurate. I just want to put that through the ambassador's residence. So we go in and go, no, well, hang on. That's not how it looks. It brought back some amazing memories of an incredible time. I was there for 10 years collectively. So The Diplomat is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Do you enjoy it, Ben?
Yeah, fabulous show.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. Well, Geraldine, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. And I agree. I think HR can be very proactive. It just needs to take action and communicate well and do the right things. And also the future. It's going to be an exciting time. Sounds like you position yourself to be helping businesses take that opportunity. So yeah, thank you very much.
It's now or never. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks and see you next time.